Man, it's so great to be with you. I want you to smile just a little bit more. Look at the person next to you and say, are you losing weight? Why don't you just ask him that right now? Now you're really happy. I got you now. Hey, welcome to those watching on live on our webcast. I want to walk you through something here. I'll explain to you in a few moments, but I think it's really important. So get something to write with. This is going to be really some important things for us to take a look at. Well, I was reading this story. It was one of my favorite job interviews that took place recently. It happened in a smaller town where a real lucrative and a position opened up that every college student was vying for. They go, this is a chance to advance. And there was a whole bunch that showed up for this small town opportunity that literally could open up some pretty big doors for them. So there was a whole waiting room of doing some, of getting ready to start the interview. The first college student that went up for the interview walked in the door closed, supervisor began to look. First question was this, said, we need somebody that can really think fast on his feet. We need someone that can make fast decisions. And finally, she just said to him, said, can you show me that you're capable of doing that, of making fast decisions? And so without even missing a beat, he stood up. She didn't know what was going on, opened up the door and said, you all can go home. The job has been taken, and shut the door at that point. I'm going, that's a great decision that person just made there. Always remember this about decisions. Jot this down, is that I'm not a product of my circumstances. I'm a product of my decisions. And this we have to understand. I'm not a product of my circumstances. I'm a product of my decisions. You know, Columbia in New York City did a research and found out that the average person makes about 70 decisions every single day. That's 25,000 decisions every single year. And think about this. When you hit 70 years old, you've made 1.7 million different decisions. Think how crazy that is. That means you put all of those 1.7 million decisions together, just like we just said, that's what makes you who you are. I mean, think about that for just a moment here. Because part of those 1.7 million, those can include a job opportunity, maybe transferring to another state. That could be everything from a ministry position to a opportunity to maybe go out on a date with someone, to even maybe pop the question and maybe move towards marriage. It could be an investment of taking some savings money and investing it. It could be everything from building a home to even starting your own business. And it could be as simple as this. It could be as simple as whether to follow someone or unfollow someone on social media. It could be even you deciding today whether you're going to go with Growth Track, which is step one today, which is really exciting. I'm so happy because step one really kind of gets you in the game. You kind of get the uniform on and get going. And I'm so excited Pastor Chris is teaching it. And you know what makes me even more excited is that tonight we're doing something and kind of tipping the scales a little bit. Tonight, we asked on our 5 o'clock service how many have gone through Growth Track. Do you know 75% of the people at the 5 o'clock never went through Growth Track? That means they're not showing up at 12:45. So tonight, we're doing our second Growth Track, and we're going to, as a test pilot program. So today, and all this month, we're doing 2 Growth Tracks, and so we're really excited for doing our best to get everyone involved. And that's going to be amazing. But it could be about joining a small group, even the Dream Team. Maybe you woke up this morning and decided whether we're going to go to church or what church you're going to go to. In fact, I'm hoping you're going to wake up one morning in a few months and the church that you decide to go to is the brand new Youngsville campus, pastored by Pastor Chris and Michelle Reese. That's what I'm hoping for, is that you're going to make that decision. So you want to be praying for that. And we still want a bunch of you to leave church here and to go over there. Yep, you can come on a Sunday, and we're saying get out and go to Youngsville because we want to see something great happen there. But think about this for a second. I just want to guide you for the next 2 weeks, and I think this is why I think this is important. I want to guide you in the next 2 weeks on some decision making for just 2 weeks. And in fact, we're going to do this for 2 weeks, and then my favorite thing happens of the entire year, March 17th, right here, you don't want to miss it, is Student Sunday. And that's going to be happening right here, where we're going to begin to see what God is doing in the next generation. And so I want to encourage you, bring your nieces, nephews, grandchildren, bring your children, but that's going to happen right here on March 17th. But today I want to talk to you about, the title is a little negative, but really the stuff we're going to talk about is really good. But I want to talk to you about the catastrophic cost of a bad decision. The catastrophic cost of a bad decision. So don't worry, it's not gonna be negative. I'm gonna really get some good stuff in here that can help us on some things that we need to do. So I want us to understand how important these decisions are. So let me ask you a question. Here's the question I wanna ask you. What could you do with an extra 600 hours a year? 600 hours a year translates to 25 extra days. How many here would like 25 extra days in 2019? You'd like 25 extra days. Listen, I'm looking at this and going, man, I would love that. So think about this for just a moment. Think about what you could do. Maybe pick up a hobby, maybe even start learning a second language. It could be everything from another skill. Think of getting another month of salary, maybe doing something going out and say, I'll earn some extra money. So here's what's crazy. You ready for this? It says that the average person spends 2 hours a day on social media, which turns into 600 hours a year, which turns into 25 days a year. Some of you going like, I knew I shouldn't have gone to church today. That's the wrong decision. Think about that for just a second. That means every time you want to go and see, what is my girlfriend wearing for Mardi Gras? Every time you go through that and read through all that stuff and see all the posts, they said the average person, and I'm telling you, there's people that do a lot more than that. Think about that for just a moment. 2 hours a day adds up to 600 hours a year, and you can have 25 days back in your year. That's pretty amazing when you think about how important that is. That's why, get this down, the kind of decisions you make today will determine the kind of person you are tomorrow. The kind of decisions that you'll make today will determine the kind of decisions that you will make tomorrow. Or let me put it in a way that you'll understand it. You ready for this? Many people today want filet mignon results, but only make hot dog decisions. And so you have to understand how important this is, because when I tell you something about, hey, I'll give you 25 days this year if you just get off social media. Now listen, I'm not saying, get rid of everything, and I really am saying this. If that doesn't make you pause and go, wait, let me take inventory, then really it's a hot dog decision. It's kind of a hot dog mentality to go, I want these kind of results, but yet I'm not willing to make the simple decisions to make something like this work. So I want to give you tools today from the Bible, really on how to make some filet mignon decisions this year. How many are going like, I need to start making some better decisions this year? Would you just go ahead? Let me help you, because I want to talk with you. But in order for me to do this, I have to tell you an Old Testament story of a really bad decision, but we're going to pull some good stuff out of this. In fact, I'm going to give you a grid that you can run some decisions through from the Bible that is going to help you to be a better decision maker in order for us to understand. So we've got to do a little bit of an Old Testament Bible lesson. It's just going to take a few minutes, but it's really important for us to get this. So here we go. Let's get ready, strap in. Some of this you're going to know. Some of this will be new for some that are in this place or some watching online. Here it is. Number one, the first 4 kings of Israel is Saul, David, writer of the Psalms, Solomon, considered very wise, and then Solomon's son's name is Rehoboam. That is going to be kind of the guy we're going to key on, because we're going to take his first day on the job and show something about Rehoboam that really this guy makes a huge, real dumb decision. In fact, it just cost so much. It was catastrophic, just so dumb. And it's almost ironic to me that the wisest man had a real dumb son. And so you're going to see something here that I'm thinking, and listen, I've seen it the other way too. I've seen real dumb fathers have real wise sons. So let's understand this works both ways. So let me walk you through this for just a second, and I want to talk to you about what happens. So he just becomes king, and he has 2 groups of people in his ear trying to give him advice. So the 2 groups of people that have the ear of the king are his BFFs, the guy he grew up with in school. They share the same leather jacket. They played football. They drove trucks together on Friday night and went fishing. Those are the BFFs. And you're going to see these are the guys he grew up with. The second group of guys are called the elders or the grayheads. These are the older guys. These are the guys that have some experience. And Rehoboam needs wisdom on how to do this brand new job of leading a nation. He is now in charge of Israel, just inherited it from Solomon, his father, and his advice is coming from 2 different sources. The first advice that comes to him is about to come from the elders, the gray heads, the senior citizens. And let me just say this. This is so important. When elders speak, let me just say it like this. Listen to your elders' advice, not because they're always right, but because they have more experience of being wrong. So I want to encourage you to listen to your elders. So here's how it goes. You ready for this? 1 Kings chapter 12, verse 6. Then King Rehoboam consulted the elders who had served his father Solomon during his lifetime. How would you advise me to answer these people? The people asked the question to the brand new king. He answered this. They replied, if today you will be a servant to these people and serve them and give them a favorable answer, they will always be your servants. Keep that up on the screen for just a second, because I think that's a really great point. You know what he was saying to them? He's saying, if you could become something, they will model that. He didn't say if you say something, he said if you become something. And that's a big deal, because here's what you have to understand. What he was telling them is that true leadership is modeling something. Be a servant, they'll become servants, is what he says. But all of a sudden, he starts to make his catastrophic mistake in dealing with this, and he is about to now listen to the young men and what they have to say. And here's the problem with listening to the elders and then listening to the young men. Someone said it like this: the trouble with good advice is that it usually interferes with your plans. And so this is what is about to happen. It is about to interfere with his plans, because the elders told him something, it's about character, but the young men are about to give him something different. Let me read to you what it says starting in verse 8. Here are the verses. But Rehoboam rejected the advice of the elders, gave him, and consulted the young men who he had grown up with, went to high school with, played football with, and had a truck, and also did bass fishing, and were serving him. He asked them, what is your advice? How should we answer these people? Here is the question of the people. He says, would you lighten the yoke your father put on us? Here's what the young men who had grown up with him replied. These people have said to you, your father put a heavy yoke on us, but make our yoke lighter. Now you tell them, my little finger is thicker than my father's waist. My father laid on you a heavy yoke. I'll make it even heavier. My father scourged you with whips. He says, I'm going to go ahead and scourge you with scorpions. These kids who have no experience whatsoever, all of a sudden know how to be a king. Now all of a sudden, since we hung out together and because we have friendship, I really know how to begin to do this job. You know what he was telling them? He was telling them that you need to make sure those people know you're in charge here. Go vocal, don't go character, go vocal, tell them you're in charge. Look at me for a second. If you got to tell people you're in charge, then you're not a very good leader. If you've got to tell folks, I'm the supervisor, if I've got to keep going to you, hey, don't you know I'm the pastor of the church? I'm not really the pastor of the church. That's called poor leadership. And that's what they were telling him to do. They were saying to him, tell them you're the man. And they don't even realize they were setting him up really for a defeat. And think about this for a moment here. Because Rehoboam, I want you to listen, he was listening to the wrong people and the wrong advice, and literally it was about to cost Israel not only pain, but literally years of pain. In fact, let me say it like this. Rehoboam's decision to not make a good decision was catastrophic for the nation. His decision not to do this right, and we're going to talk about the grid. His decision not to make a good decision was catastrophic for the nation. What do you mean, Pastor Tim? Just now bear with me. This is our Old Testament lesson. Literally, it was so catastrophic, it brought about 450 years of chaos and captivity. 450 years. Well, Pastor Tim, can you explain that a little bit further? I'm glad you asked. So let me give to you the Old Testament history lesson. Here it is. You ready for this? When he made this decision, Israel split down in half. And now I'm putting 921 BC. I'm going to come back to that. Because remember this, that decision, if you, let me ask you this question. Let's pause for a second. How many use the Bible? How many use an electronic Bible, iPad, or your phone? Would you just raise your hand? Okay, how many is still old school and you bring a Bible to school? Oh, we're about half and half. This is an old and young group. Okay, so we have elders and we have young people. Here we go. Now get this down, because I want you to jot right on top of 1 Kings 12, put down 921 BC. This is a big deal, 921 BC. In 921 BC, because of Rehoboam's decision, it then became Israel and Judah. What it did was it split the country in half. What it really was like, listen to this, OSC, it was literally called Southern Kingdom and the Northern Kingdom. It would be exactly what happened during the 19th century and the Civil War that took place in our country. There was the North and there was the South. And that's exactly what happened by this kid's decision not to listen to the elders, but to listen to all of his guys that they had the same letter jacket from the same high school. They all listened to each other, and all of a sudden his decision split a country. Did it really matter? Absolutely. Because what happens is then Israel goes into two captivities. Let me explain this to you because this is important. So you have Northern Kingdom and Southern Kingdom. Northern Kingdom is Israel. Southern Kingdom is Judah. And here's what happens. Keep this in mind. These are important moments. Israel was conquered by Assyria in 721 BC, 10 tribes. 721 BC, Assyria comes in and literally just takes over 10 tribes, takes them out. Judah was conquered by the Babylonians. Now, this is an important one. If you want to know what this means in 586, it was Judah, when the Babylonians came in, this is where you get the book of Daniel. This is where you get the 3 Hebrew children. And this is where you begin to read even later on from the book of Esther, the book of Ezra, the book of Nehemiah, all coming out of this Babylonian captivity. But here's the part I want you to understand. When Rehoboam made his decision, he split the country in half, and the country was no longer powerful. Because they weren't trusting on God, they were trusting on their own strength. And all of a sudden you have a split country and they're both brought into captivity and couldn't even fight anybody. And here's what's incredible. Number one, Israel never returns from their captivity. Have you ever heard of this phrase, the 10 lost tribes of Israel? That's where it happens. They go into captivity by Assyria and never come back. You never hear of these tribes ever again. But it was Judah. Now here's what's important. Judah leaves Babylon, this is an important date, at 536 BC. This is when they have to go back and they're going to repair Jerusalem. So they go back after 70 years being in captivity. They go back to Jerusalem. Now here's the part I want you to get, folks. This is big. If Jeroboam makes his catastrophic decision with his BFFs in 931 BC, here it is, and Judah returns from exile in 536 BC, then it cost 400 years of consequences. Consequences? What do you mean, Pastor Tim? Okay, let me give it to you. Think about what he split the country, took away their strengths, and now you have POWs. Now you have prisoners of war. Now you have brainwashing going on in Babylon. Now all of a sudden you have families being separated because Babylon only took certain people. They left all the poor people and only took the young people. You have Assyria that literally come in and destroy everything. They break down the walls. They break down their place of worship, and the entire country is ravaged because this kid wouldn't listen. I want you to keep one thing in mind for me, please, and that's this. You can choose your sin, but you can't choose the consequences of your sin. You can choose your sin. You can decide what you want to do today, but you're not in charge of what happens after you do sin. That now it's out of your control at this point. And this is what happened with this kid. He just thought, man, these are my buds, I'm doing this stuff, and has no idea that he is about to send the whole country into literally a downturn and a downslide. Always remember this. This is such a good verse. Proverbs 11:14 says this, without good direction, people lose their way. But the more wise counsel you follow, the better your chances. So you know what I want to do today? I want to increase your chances of really making this a successful year. How many were going like, man, I like some good chances to make better decisions? I want to help you with this because I know this is so important. You know, I was listening to the story of these two sisters, twins, that had an alcoholic mom, that all the way to her funeral, she literally struggled with alcoholism, never broke free of that her entire life, in and out of rehabs, and just couldn't get set free from it. And it was interesting, when I was reading the story, it said that one of the sisters becomes an alcoholic herself. She was in and out of rehabs her entire life, just like her mom. But the other sister wouldn't touch any of the alcohol, never had a sip in her life, and became successful in the business world. Said when they asked the alcoholic sister why she drank, she said, well, my mother was an alcoholic, so what can you expect? When they asked the other sister, why didn't you become an alcoholic? She says, well, my mother was an alcoholic, what would you expect? What one was saying was this, If my mom did it, I'm just have to do it. And the other one was saying I'm not leaving my results up to what my mom did. I can make my own choices. This is not an issue of choice. This is not an issue of chance. It's an issue of choice. And can I just take this a little bit further? This doesn't just deal with alcohol. It can deal with gambling. It can deal with divorce. I don't care if your grandparents and your parents divorce. You don't have to get a divorce. You don't have to go ahead and begin to take money and go, oh, my father gambled away our retirement. That's why there was no inheritance when he died. And I guess I'm just the same thing. No, you can make a choice today. You don't have to make a catastrophic decision that begins to affect generations. I want to give you a grid that's going to help you to do what God wants you to do today. In fact, what I want to do is I want to give you a grid for making good decisions. Just 3 things I want to give to you. I want you to get ready to jot down these 3 things. So I'm going to give all 3 to you and leave some space. And I want you to see what I believe is going to help us, that Rehoboam didn't have any thought of doing any of this. In fact, did opposite of what this is. So here is a grid for making good decisions. Let me just give them to you first. Here are the 3 of them. Number 1, we're talking about processing up. I'll explain that in a second. Process up. Number 2, process by honor. And number 3, process with prayer. I want you to keep these in mind. We're going to begin to process up, process with honor, and process with prayer. So keep those in mind, keep some space there. Let me just unpack just a tiny bit and let me describe what I mean by this. When I'm talking about process up, process by honor, and process with prayer, here's what I'm actually saying. Number 1, I want you to process with maturity. That's with a mentor. Then I want you to process for unity. Those are the ones that you love or that love you and have investment in your life. So, and in fact, it's that second one. Let me say this to you, OSC. It's the second one that gets skipped all the time. This is a really important one, and I'm going to spend some time on this processing for unity or processing with honor. And this is really dealing with people that you love. This could be a spouse, this could be a pastor, it depends what kind of season of life you're in. But the third one is process with 30K, with God. This is 30,000 feet. I'll explain that in just a few moments. So it's processing with maturity, processing for unity, and processing with a larger 30,000 foot view of seeing things larger and seeing things further than you would ever see. So let's get ready to go through this. But before we do this, let me just say this. This is important. In order to make a wise decision, all 3 of these must be in agreement. You're not trying to get one of them. You're not picketing to get one of them. If all of a sudden one says yes, the others 2 say no, this doesn't work. And so this is really important to get all these voices and to know that you have the right people in your life. So let's walk through this for just a few moments. And I think this is going to help us not to begin to have catastrophic results, but literally to do what God wants us to do. So let's take the first one. Number 1 is this, process up. Let's jot that down. And let me walk you through this, processing with maturity. It's processing with maturity. Now, when I say the word process up, I'm not talking about a movie, I'm talking about something else. Up are people who have more maturity and journey than you. This is dealing with people that are further along than you and that literally are some exits down the road. In fact, let me just say this. When I use the word gray heads, I'm talking about get people in your life. Gray heads are people that navigated through pain to success in life. You're going to find those that have experience, that go through this. Great verse is Proverbs 13:20. If you want to grow in wisdom, spend time with the wise. Walk with the wicked, and you'll eventually become just like them. This is so important relationally. When I say process up, I'm talking about getting the right people, the right circle amongst us. In fact, let me say it to you like this. Every one of us, including me, must have a circle of people around us that are further down the road than us and are doing what we want to be doing one day. That's what we have to do. Not people at the same exit, but people further down. For example, if you're here today and you're going like, man, I'm trying to eat better, I'm trying to get fit, don't hang out with someone who has like a frequent Blizzard card at Dairy Queen, just going like, ooh, it's Oreo Sundae. Okay, you don't want to do that. You're trying to get fit, and they're going like, Reese's Pieces. And so you got to begin to go, I got to hang out with people that are further along than me that can help me make these processing up. When I was reading the story of a young man who finally worked up the courage to propose to the girl of his dreams. So he dropped on one knee, looked her in the eye and said, Jane, I know I'm not wealthy like Tom, And I recognize that I'm not as handsome like Tom is handsome, and I might not be as well educated as Tom, but I love you, Jane, and I want to marry you. The woman was so moved. She said, well, I love you too, John, but tell me a little more about Tom. And so when you think, okay, I could have helped him. I could have said, when you propose, don't talk about Tom. Just propose and leave him out, or you're going to really muddy up the waters on this whole thing. See, this is what's important. We need people to guide us. People. So I want to give you a piece of advice. This is good. Listen to this. Get ready now. You're not going to like it, but I'm going to tell you anyway. Your friend's advice does not count when you're making a big decision. Your friend's advice does not count when you have to make a big decision. Why? It's too biased. How can you say that? I don't. Rehoboam tells us that. When you hang out with your boys or your girls or your peeps, you're going to end up doing the wrong thing. Hey, let me just help you here. Listen, play golf with them, eat chicken wings with them, pray with them, laugh with them or laugh at them, hunt, fish, debate, whether it's LSU or UL, but for heaven's sakes, do not listen to them on big decisions. Do not listen to them, because when you're making a big decision, listen to me, you need a bigger voice in your life. That's what you have to have. You need a very big voice. That's why we need people to step up and be mentors. We need people, and a great place to find someone, a big voice, is join a small group. Oh my goodness. Go to oscgroups.com, get in a small group, and you can begin to find there are people that have a journey. When you're processing a big decision, I don't need to talk to the guys at the same exit. I want to talk to the guy that's 5 exits down the road. That's who I want to talk to. One of my favorite African proverbs is this. Listen to this. This is good. If surviving lions don't tell their stories, then hunters get all the credit. Okay, just pause for a second. That's really good. You just don't know it. Listen, if surviving lions don't tell their stories, then hunters get all the credit. You know what he's saying? Is I need people that have gone through it, that have been beat up, but have survived to tell me their story. Because if you don't tell your story, if you don't help the next generation, if you don't begin to help people get to the next exit and to the next place that they're supposed to go, then all the hunters get. Listen, that's why the people I talk to, I hear all the stories of ministers that fail, but I'm talking to all the lions that made it through. Because I want to know, I want to hear those stories on how you begin to do it. I've watched this happen with my son, Christian. I'm thinking about, as he wants to go into engineering, there's some engineers here in the church that are exits down the road from him as he's getting ready to go to college and go into engineering. There are people that are pouring into him going, this is the kind of computer, this is the kind of classes, this is what you want to look at, this is what you want to do. What that is, what they're doing is, that's a surviving lion. That's helping him on that. Okay, this is important. Listen to this. No man is capable of self-improvement if he sees no other model but himself. If the only person you measure yourself with is yourself, you're not very good. Listen, that's why if you're the only model and you have nobody to process and to see further, then man, we're going to find ourselves getting in trouble at these points. That's why, get this, I want you to learn to process before you decide. I want you to process with people and process up before you make decisions. That's what processing up means. That's why we're challenging you not to go catastrophic, not to go Rehoboam on stuff, but to understand how important this is. Now, so let's go to the second thing, because this is huge. This is the one that we skip a lot, but this is processing by honor. This is the one I'm going to have to just spend just a second with. When I say process by honor, I'm talking about processing for unity. It's with those that you love. And let me explain it like this. What do you mean when you say who do you honor? Let me tell you what I mean. This could be a spouse. This could be a parent. It could even be a pastor, maybe a mentor or a coach. It's those that have, listen to me, it's those that have investment in you. It's those that's investment of time, money, whether those have raised you, those that have taught you. This is a big deal. This is one that we'll skip a whole bunch, but it's those that have equity in the relationship. One of the greatest tenors, obviously, that has ever lived and has ever been on the planet is Pavarotti. And I was reading the story of Pavarotti, And it says that he was at a crossroad of his life because he really wanted to be a teacher. He wanted to be a university teacher and was going through college there in Italy and got his degree to teach. But his dad noticed that there was a gift upon him to sing. And so he was taking singing lessons and doing his education all at the same time. And finally, when he graduated, this is him processing but with honor. Watch this. What he did was he went to his dad and he asked his father, "Dad, should I be a teacher or a singer?" And all his dad said was this. He says, "If you try to sit on two chairs, you'll fall between them every single time. Pick one chair." He said, and thank God he chose the right chair. Or it would have been like, it would have been singing on physics. You'll hear, it's the last thing I would want to hear. I'm going like, don't take Professor Pavarotti. That's what I would have said. But can I tell you, I watched my son do that with us. Christian hit a point in his sophomore year. We've never pushed our kids with sports. We just said, "Hey, listen, if it's something you find." So Christian came to me and he just goes, and Cindy just goes, "Hey, I'm a good baseball player, but I'm a really better swimmer." And he goes, "I think I need to choose a chair here." It's exactly what Pavarotti did. Well, the coolest thing is that he did that, and it literally changed part of the trajectory of his life and the course of his life of what he's going to do. What's exciting for us is that because he chose that, we watched his times because he just poured everything into that. 2 a days, getting up at 4:45, doing all this stuff, and we watched our son times change and becomes third in state in the breaststroke. And not only that, but then it begins to move him towards Liberty University, and then we find out that he gets the invitation to swim for Liberty University. And then here's the other cool thing. We just found out this week that their last meet, that their anchor breaststroke guy swims a 105 and Christian swims a 102, and we're going like, and the coach sent him, he goes like, "We cannot wait for you to come." I was going like, that's pretty cool. But you know what that was? It was basically Christian. It was Christian just literally choosing a chair. That's all that is. But that doesn't just work between father and son or parents and children. Here's the part. That really does work between husband and wife, and that's a missing piece in a lot of relationships. This is huge, and I want you to listen how important. I'm going to say this, men, you're going to get angry, but I'm telling you, women have way more discernment than men do, except in shopping. Just listen to me close. Women have way more discernment. I'm just telling you, my wife is way smarter than me, and it's so important to understand. Cindy sent me this picture. This is why women are so much smarter. It's what happens when kids are left in the hands of the father to babysit while the mom goes out with her friends. This is what goes on. Look at this. So they build something like that. Seriously, I would be doing that. I'd be going like, "Mr. Bubble, come on. Let's make a bubble mountain." That's why, listen, ladies, that's why never leave us alone. We're going to get in trouble every single time. This is what's so important. Listen, when I say, let me talk husband and wife here for just a moment, process by honor. It goes like this. Get this now. I will not make a decision, but we will make a decision is how you process with honor. It's not I make a decision, we make the decision together. And if we're not together on this, then we don't make any decision. In fact, when it comes to making a decision, we must involve those whom we honor. Let me just say this to you folks, listen close. It's dangerous to say, "My money, my decision, it's my company, it's my children, this is my house that I bought it's my savings account." Nothing, listen to me, "my" is divisive and it kills unity in a marriage. If those are the words that you use, if you go, "That's my money," the next phrase out of your mouth should be, "I'm an idiot, please forgive me." That's what it should be. You got to be kidding me. When you signed up for this thing, it's not you. It's anybody when they're going like, those are my kids. That's my mail. Okay, ladies, look at me for a second. If he ever says that's my mail, open it up. And I'll open it up. And if they go, "Why are you opening up my mail?" "Pastor Tim told me." And listen, and if there's something bad in there, talk to Pastor Randy. But let's move on here for just a second. Okay, this is important. We do this together. I need Cindy involved. I've learned women are braver, stronger, smarter. I'm just telling you. And that's why this is so important. And if you don't believe that, men, and if you think you're doing this by yourself, if you just need proof of why your wife is stronger, smarter, braver, watch what happens when you get sick in the house, and watch what happens when she gets sick in the house. I'm just telling you right now. There have been times, there's that whole section of ladies back there. They know what I'm talking about. Listen, it goes like this. When I'm sick, it's amazing how smooth things run in the house. Where it's kind of like he's out of the way. We can get this thing running like a well-oiled machine. But when Cindy gets sick, OMG, I'm going like, you're a healer, you're a mighty God. You can raise her up. Come on, Jesus. I'm pouring oil on her head and just going like, heal her, Jesus. Oh my goodness. This is so important. The reason why we do this, when we do this, we do it for honor's sake. Listen to what 1 Peter 3:7 says on that relationship between husband and wife. Your husbands, in the same way, live with your wives in an understanding way, as with someone who's weaker, and because she is a woman, since she is a woman, and show her honor. This is the man's responsibility as a fellow heir of the grace of life. And he says, if you don't do it, you're going to mess up your prayer life. That's not me. That's Peter. Don't get mad at me. He says that. Keep that on the screen for all the men to see. Ladies should be saying amen. Listen, because when you show her honor, in the decision making that we will make this together, you're giving value to her. You're giving weight to her, and you're saying, man, we do this together. So when you process up, you're doing it with a mentor. When you're processing with honor, you're doing it with the people that have investment in you. The people that, it is all based on season of life. If you're a single person, it could be your pastor, it could be a parent. If you're married, it's definitely your spouse. Definitely your spouse. Oh, we're going to Houston. No. You're going to Houston unless we do this together. You can say, I'm going to Houston, but it's not we. We have to do this together. And this is what makes this so important. And the final thing that I think is important, let's close with this, it's processed with prayer. So we're processing up, that's mentor, processing with honor, those that have investment and equity in the relationship, and we're also then going to process with prayer. Let's close with this. When we say that, we're talking about 30,000 foot view. We're talking about processing with God. What do you mean by that, Tim? Listen, what does 30K mean? What does 30,000 feet mean? Sometimes you may have heard us say like, hey, let's take the 30,000 foot view, let's take a larger view. Let me tell you what it means. 30,000 feet is where planes fly. It's where you get to see a lot more than being on the ground. Basically, it's like this. The higher you go, the further you see. And nobody is higher than God. Only God sees 30,000 feet. And it's getting God involved with the decision. Why would we want God involved with the decision other than he is like wise? Let me just give you another one. Isaiah 46:10 says it like this. Only I can tell you. This is God speaking. Only I can tell you the future before it even happens. Everything I plan comes to pass because I do whatever I wish. In fact, King James says it like this. God knows the end from the beginning. He knows what he's doing. And what's crazy is this. Is that God is going, man, just involve me in your decisions. So many people, let me say this. So many people assume yes, and you never even ask God. We just assume he always says yes. You know what's crazy? When you're dealing with the occult, O-C-C-U-L-T, think of what a Ouija board is. You know what a Ouija board is? It's made up of a German word and a French word, and both mean yes. It means yes, yes. You know what a Ouija board is? Satan will always tell you yes because he's not a father. God is a father, and he'll tell no to his children sometimes. He will say no. Because when you're dealing with God, involve him in it. Ask God and wait. Ask God to speak to your heart. Ask him to speak even by peace inside of you. Ask him to speak by his word or even by a message. If you want to know if God's interested in what you're deciding, I love this verse, James 1:5. Listen to this. If you want to know what God wants you to do, ask him and he'll gladly tell you. Is that a great verse? Just ask him. Not only are you processing up and processing with honor, but you're processing by prayer. So let me close and tell you a story. Some of you know my journey and Cindy's journey and going to Detroit for 30 years. When we went there, when I went there as a single man, went there at 19 years old, I really was just going to follow in the footsteps of my father and all of his brothers. They're all NYPD and all New York City firemen. But I was going to kind of take my dad's journey and then probably add a little bit more to it. My dad not only rose to become New York City police chief, but he went to the FBI Academy in Quantico, Virginia. So he went to FBI Academy. But in order to go there, you had to get your undergrad in either business or law or criminal justice. So when I was going to school, that's what I had on my mind. I was going that way. I was thinking this is the place that I want to go, and just follow my dad's footsteps. So I didn't know if that was going to end up NYPD. I didn't know if that would be a federal agent. I don't know what that was going to do, but I figured if everybody in my family is either fireman or policeman, that's just what I want to do the same thing. I want to follow in the footsteps of my dad. What's crazy is when I went to Detroit about 4 or 5 months into this thing, I felt God was calling me to preach. And I felt like there was a call on me just to, preach the gospel and be a minister. And this was changing everything for me. So the thing I had to do was I called my parents. So watch this. So I'm going to process with honor. So I called my dad. Then I'm going to process up with my pastor. So I started with my dad. I just go, I was finishing my sophomore year at university, having to declare your major in your junior year. I was going like, if I got to declare something, I'm going to declare I'm a believer and I'm going to be a man of God. And I was going like, my goal was to leave university and then go full-time ministry. That's what I wanted to do. So I called my dad up, and my dad was going, no, Tim, I feel like you have a calling on your life, but I want you to finish university. I want you to get your degree. And in my mind, I'm going like, you don't understand, because you're a cop. I'm a man of God, and I got to preach the gospel. And so this thing is inside. It's a fire burning. Whenever you want to do something else, it's going, it's a fire burning in my bones. And so that's what you say. And once again, it goes back to the whole thing. It's like, good advice messes up the plans that you really want to do. And so my dad was just going, no, I feel like the calling's there, but I want you to finish university. So I kind of was dismissive about it. Then I decided I'm going to process up with my pastor. He's going to understand because he's got a calling on his life. He knows calling. He just knows criminals. I need someone who knows calling. And so I talked to my dad. I talked to my pastor. And he goes, Tim, I really feel like you need to finish university and get your degree. He said, I believe you're called. I believe that there's a calling on your life to preach the gospel. And I'm just thinking, well, he's not a good pastor because he just doesn't understand what's really going on inside of me. So the only person to talk to that would understand and see the 30,000-foot view is God himself. So I'm deciding, so I'm praying, and I don't feel like I'm getting any answer. And I feel like I have God on my side, because when I've looked in the concordance and I look under university doesn't exist in any Bible verse. So I'm going like, this is all me. It's me and you, God. This is awesome. Since university is not in the Bible, boom, we're going ministry. So here's what happens. I'm finishing up finals in statistics. I'm going to the building, dreary Detroit winter day, finishing it up. And then as soon as I finish that, I have to then kind of make a decision coming up what my major declaration is going to be, my declaration. So school wants me to declare a major. I want to declare I'm a man of God. And so I've got to decide what's going to happen at this point. As I'm walking to take my final, I was just blindsided by God. And all of a sudden, I find out that the word university is in the Bible. I'm going, I can't believe, seriously, I found out that university exists in the Bible. I'm going like, this is crazy. I didn't see it in any translation, and it's there. The word university is in Ephesians chapter 6, and this is what it says: honor your father. That's what it said. And at that point, I declared my major, became a corporate finance major, and finished my degree. And because I knew my mentor, my pastor said it, the person in process with honor, my father said it, and God said it. He said, you're going to honor your father on this. And God, with a 30,000-foot view, and can I just tell you something? There would have been no Oxford. Never see my friends here that we went to Oxford together. Mark and Julie Davies, who are sitting here today. I'm so grateful. You don't even know Mark's story, and some of our men need to know Mark's story. An incredible story with special forces and everything. We met there at Oxford. This relationship never would have happened if I didn't listen to those three things, because it could have been, maybe not to you, it could have been catastrophic. It could have been catastrophic. But see, the issue is that I think this is important to ask. Let me just say this, and we close. We run to the end. Let me ask you this: who can say no to you, and you'll really listen to them? Who is it that can say no to you and say, put a pause on this? I don't think you should do that right now, and you're really going to listen to them? Which one of those groups? Which mentor? Which pastor? A father? Which person can say no to you, and you're going, okay, I got it. Because I wasn't tapping the brakes when my dad said do it, and I wasn't tapping the brakes when my pastor said it. And I was out of bounds on that. But who can tell you no and you're gonna listen? Who do you ask them and you go, hey, I think we're supposed to take this job thing. I think we're supposed to go to this. I think I'm gonna go over here. And they go, I think you should pause on that. And you'll really listen to them. Because I want you to get this. Listen to me close. This is important. Because I'm really asking who has veto power in your life. Who has veto power? Because here it is, listen. When you only use pain and consequence to inform you that it was a bad decision, you're a poor decision maker. If the only time you're going like, man, I'm going to get married, and everyone's going, no, I wouldn't get married, I wouldn't do this. She's hot. God wants me to marry hot women. And so you're just going like, and all of a sudden the thing becomes a trend, and you're just going like, or I'm going out with this guy because he's fine, and God says in the Bible that He wants us to be with fine people. And so if all of a sudden it becomes a train wreck, my question is this: if someone put a pause in it, would you have put a pause? If someone would have think about this for a second, because this is a big deal. Because God sees a larger picture, because it's a decision that we all have to make. And in fact, if I could just say it to you like this is a huge decision. And in fact, Jesus said, in all of your decisions, there's one decision you better get right or it'll have catastrophic results. There's a decision that you have to make that literally everything is banking on this. This one you gotta get right. And here's the way Jesus put it. He says, I'm telling you the truth. This is Jesus telling you the truth. Like He has to say truth. Like we're going like, this is Jesus, He can't lie. No one can see the kingdom of God. That's now and forever without being born again. That's what Jesus said. In fact, we have to understand, because born again, according to Jesus, changes now and forever. See, to be born again, it's not born again, and I don't want you to get confused, it's not you in church, it's Jesus in you. And we get that confused. We're going like, I'm in church, so everything's going. Let me tell you why this is so important. This is the part, because as I'm praying for you every single Sunday, this is a big deal. I read down a little bit further, and this is what it says. Jesus goes, do not be surprised, because I tell you that you must all be born again. Listen to those last words. I want this to ring, because this is catastrophic if we don't get this right. You must all, those are the words of Jesus, all be born again. This is not just for a few people. He says all. That means when you look over this entire sanctuary and look at everyone here, it means everybody in the house. And so here's the question you got to ask and a decision you have to make. Are you in the all group? Are you in the all group? Not are you go to OSC. I'm not asking if you're Protestant or Catholic. I'm not asking if you're Methodist or Baptist. I'm not asking if you're an OSC. Are you in the all group, which means being born again? And listen, you can look at my whole social media thing, 2 hours a day, 600 hours, 25 days. Listen, you can walk out and start scrolling and accepting friends, and it's no big deal. But let me just tell you this, on this decision, a non-decision is a decision. Because eternity is too long to be wrong. To walk out of here and not make any decision, that's a decision. And look at me, folks, it's catastrophic, because we're dealing with forever. And I want you to live forever with God. He made it available today. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have everything together. You have a God that has it all together for you today.